Good day, CityWorks innovators. We're going to speak for the next several minutes about the American Rescue Plan Act and how you guys might be able to leverage the funding from this program to support your ongoing CityWorks asset management initiatives. At Wolpert, we've found that those of us in the trenches delivering great GIS-centric CityWorks asset management solutions are often unaware of some of the finer details in these types of funding opportunities and programs. In fact, as we're having conversations with our clients, 2 out of 3 of the folks that we're speaking to on a regular basis are not aware that their programs might qualify for this kind of funding. So our presentation today is informational, to arm you guys with some facts and some figures that you can then take as a call to action and meet with your leadership, your finance directors, your utilities directors, your city council members, your tribal council, and so forth, and get a seat at this table as part of the discussion and influence how this funding can flow down and help you guys support the ever important GIS-centric CityWorks asset management solutions that are important to your asset sustainability objectives. Our agenda today is as follows. We're going to start with some very brief introductions. We'll give an overview of ARPA, and then we'll speak about the National League of Cities and some of the guidance that they've been putting together to help Congress define and the Treasury Department define how this funding is allowed to be spent. And then we'll speak a little bit about the upcoming pending infrastructure stimulus bill. My name is Ed Singer. I'm a senior consultant and program director at Wolpert. Wolpert is a full-service architectural, engineering, and geospatial services firm. We've been a CityWorks partner for 25 years, during which time we've had the distinct honor and privilege of working with a number of forward-thinking water, wastewater, and stormwater communities and helping them deliver strategic asset sustainability solutions to their stakeholders across the globe.
And I'm Dwayne Seekman, and it's a pleasure to be here with the CityWorks team and teaming up with Wolpert and Ed Singer on this presentation. I'm part of a small government and public relations firm based in DC and Columbus, Ohio. We have over 4 decades of experience just working with a variety of industries, really focusing on navigating the federal process, whether that's through lobbying policymakers or guidance through different agencies. We're a nuts to bolts firm that walks our clients and teaming up with Wolpert and helping their clients navigate these complicated and really what we're seeing now, a robust effort on infrastructure. We're going to start, as Ed pointed out, talking about the American Rescue Plan Act, better known as ARPA, which was really the first major piece of legislation that President Biden signed a few months ago. It was a $1.9 trillion economic stimulus bill, which follows the CARES Act of 2020 and the Supplemental Appropriations Act in December of 2020, which was sending funds down to communities, local communities, state governments for coronavirus relief. What is different about ARPA? ARPA has expanded the definition of how these funds can be used. And what's also different is $350 billion were sent down to the states and local governments. I should point out that actually 50% of the funds are already out to those local governments and to the states. The remainder of the 50% will come out a year from now. This is unique because local governments do not have to submit any type of grant application to pull those dollars down. If it's a community over 50,000 in population, they've received their funds already. Anything below 50,000, the state government allocates those dollars down to those communities. So we're going to talk about the areas that Treasury initially defined when the first tranche of dollars came out in the first part of May. And again, this was really designed for COVID relief, similar to the CARES and the supplemental in December. So you have assistance to small businesses, you have assistance to individuals, but the great thing about this is they allowed investments in infrastructure, sewer, water, and broadband. And that is something that we haven't seen with any other packages. And it just really goes to the interest of the administration to focus on infrastructure. And you're going to see as we talk through the presentation, sewer and water are a big part of that. Guidance from Treasury has come out. You'll see, and you've probably already read, but it's important to go out to the cities and clients that you work with to make sure they have a true understanding of what can be used with ARPA dollars as it relates to sewer and water. I explained the government already received the funds, 50% in May. The remainder will be coming down in May of 2022. The deadline to spend these funds, they actually have until the end of 2024 to spend the dollars that they're going to be allocated. That differs from CARES. CARES really put a significant timeline on about 6 months that they had to spend those, or they had to return those dollars. This is a more robust COVID package that is actually venturing into areas that the others hadn't. Reporting requirements for the states and local governments are very much the same that they experienced when they received their CARES and supplemental dollars. One thing that many folks were working on prior to the dollars being disseminated to the communities, the government entities, was really offering guidance to Treasury. Sewer and water infrastructure really doesn't tell you a lot. So the National League of Cities, others, I know we weighed in with various members of the Ohio congressional delegation to offer guidance on how these sewer and water dollars should be spent, really taking it from the local level, bringing it up to the feds, and really resonated with them so they could actually offer a little more direction than just sewer and water. Some of the projects you'll see or some of the items for consideration are on this screen. Anywhere from lead service line replacements, invest in sewer metering equipment, perform pump station condition assessments. We really wanted to focus on not just some of these projects up here, but really get into the asset management. The Biden administration has been very clear in the dollars and programs that they're focusing on. It's not just replacing pipes, it's how can we maintain those pipes for a longer period of time. They don't want to get in a situation where 20, 30 years from now, we're going to be doing this all over again. The next slide also just contains a few more and really addressing some of the technology pieces that we're proud to advocate for with members of Congress, with groups like the National League of Cities, to really put forth a robust effort to address the needs of the country.
And along those same lines, Wolpert partnered with Dwayne and his team to provide some additional guidance that was fed to the National League of Cities and directly to members of the U.S. House of Representatives to introduce some additional language that would clarify some maybe otherwise gray areas and shine more of a focus on CityWorks specific type outputs relative to maintaining this infrastructure long term. As Dwayne had mentioned, we're looking far beyond just the constructed cost of these infrastructure renewal projects, but attaching the data, the people, the processes, and the technology that we all know to be CityWorks related solutions to help manage that infrastructure into the long term. So a lot of the language you see in these bullets here, we can all draw straight lines between that and the functions that we're using our CityWorks centric strategic asset management solutions to support.
Before we get into talking about infrastructure stimulus, I want to add on to Ed's comments and my previous comments about ARPA and the dollars that came down. And I know you've all experienced with your clients and communities across the country, the questions of how these dollars could get spent. And in many cases, the decision makers may be 3-4 levels above the areas that actually need the most. And so it was really important, if communities have not done so right now, is to identify those problem areas and work their internal process to elevate them to the top. And that's going to be the same as we get into the infrastructure stimulus, or it's formerly known as the American Jobs Plan. We are in the midst of this debate right now. The president introduced this blueprint or concept early in his term. And of course, with any piece of legislation from a new administration, it comes with a lot of debate. And this piece, although it was his proposal and blueprint, the work happens in the House and the Senate. And over the course of the last couple months, they have been working on segments of water infrastructure. In fact, the Senate passed a water infrastructure bill in early May that addressed their piece of it. The House worked on roads and bridges concept as well. So all this gets meshed in. But bottom line, the president, the Senate and the House are really focused on infrastructure spending of around $600 to $650 billion. And that infrastructure, roads, bridges, sewer, water, broadband, you're going to see a lot of effort to get this piece of legislation. Hopefully it's a bipartisan piece. As you watch the news right now, you hear a lot of grumbling, but hopefully at the end of the day, it's a bipartisan piece that is passed the House and the Senate before they leave for their summer recess in August and in front of the president to sign. Now, that's just the first step. The mechanisms for these dollars, they're going to use the existing programs that have been in place for years. So from the transportation, roads, bridges, it's going to be the Build or now the Raise grants. You're going to have WIFIA, you're going to have BRIC program. You're going to have a lot of money being plussed up in these areas. And it's important for communities to have all the necessary knowledge of each of those programs so they can move forward.
So what we're seeing here through ARPA and through the pending infrastructure bill is really we're starting to see more of a light being shined on the state of our infrastructure and the importance being placed at the federal level and pushing down to the states and the local governments, along with the necessary funding to finally do something about our aging infrastructure. Most folks listening to this presentation are familiar with the American Society of Civil Engineers report card for America's infrastructure. And when we look at that document that's published every 4 years, it doesn't look good. And it hasn't been getting much better. But what I can say and what we're seeing in the industry is there are more organizations getting involved. There are more folks joining the conversation beyond just the ASCE and our local, engineering groups such as AWWA and APWA and so forth. We're starting to see the government finance officers and the municipal finance officers and the International City and County Managers Association starting to get into the asset management conversation. We're starting to see asset management tracks at all of these finance and management conferences that never really thought much or spoke of or focused on asset management in the past. So this is a really good time for us as asset managers to stay in the conversation, to help influence how money is directed and spent, and attaching our CityWorks projects to the larger capital renewal investment efforts that are going to be happening in our communities well into the future. It's all about optimizing our asset life cycles and reducing our looming infrastructure funding gap. And there's a lot of positive energy in that direction right now. So we hope that this information we've provided you in this brief presentation today arms you, empowers you, and helps you with this call to action to get yourself at the table, become part of the conversation, and influence how you can get your so important CityWorks projects funded as part of these ongoing efforts. Here's a list of several references that you can click through and get additional information. And if you have any further questions, you can reach out directly to either Dwayne or myself. And we thank you for your time. We wish you well on your asset management journey, and have a great CityWorks conference. And I look forward to seeing you all in person very soon. Dwayne, any closing remarks?
Ed, I just want to thank you and thank the Wolpert team for allowing me to join and discussing this at the CityWorks conference. And as Ed said, wish you all luck. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you all.